Well, as you know, the housing market's been, well, a little bit volatile over the course of the last year. It's good to have a friend like John Johnson in the business if you're making any decisions about buying or selling. John, first of all, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, our pleasure. And John has recently started a company called Absolute Home Analysis as a home inspector. But share with us a little bit of your background working for a local municipality and transitioning into this new role.
Okay, certainly. Actually moving a little further in the past than that. I've been in the building, in or around the building industry my entire adult life, either in the material business or selling or installing or home repairs and such as that. So then I got the opportunity to go into the municipal side as a building inspector, and which was something I had never done. But, of course, I knew a lot about it just because I'd been around the industry. So we got into that, and then after doing that a few years and trying to figure out something to transition into when I get to a point in my life where I don't want to be out there 5 days a week.
You look good for 39.
Well, thank you very much. I've strived hard at it. So this option came about, and to go in the home inspection business because it does relate somewhat to the building inspector.
Yeah, how would they be kind of similar, do you suppose?
Well, they're similar in the fact that there's a lot of things, you look at a lot of the same things. You just look at them differently.
Right.
And you report on them differently. Of course, as a building inspector, I, was responsible for checking codes to make sure everything was built to the current code, whether it was a new home being built or a renovation being done or a new roof being put on, that sort of thing. So you're inspecting primarily to code. As a home inspector, you're not necessarily inspecting the code. You're inspecting for deficiencies that may be in the home due to leaky roofs, electrical panels not operating properly, moisture in the crawl space area, just, different deficiencies that can come about just over the normal wear and tear and the age of a home. So that's, like I said, you're still crawling in the same crawl spaces. You're still crawling in the same attics. You're still reviewing all of the things you can see. Of course, as a building inspector, you're seeing things from ground up a lot of times and see what's inside the walls. But as a home inspector, you can't do that. You can't be intrusive on a home inspection. You can only inspect what you can see and, of course, what's safe to look at. And then you report on that, and you just basically you're giving the homeowner or the potential buyer a report on some deficiencies that may be there. So a lot of it's similar, but you're reporting in a different matter. And even as a home inspector, I still sometimes will report something that said this won't meet code now. But now it may have when the house was built 20 years ago because codes change. They're evolving continually. Every 3 years a new code cycle comes along. So but I will report on that, but it's not necessarily a deficiency. It's just making them aware that it doesn't. And then if they buy the home, they may want to upgrade at some point in time to bring it up to a current code situation.
Well, we're continuing to speak with John Johnson and his website, AHAinspects.com, AHAinspects.com for Absolute Home Analysis. And when do you suppose, John, would be the best time to get your home inspected throughout, think about the lifespan of someone buying a home or being in a home, I suppose.
Well, Neil, I kind of relate it to there's an old candy you're probably aware of. It's been around a long time. It's called Now and Later.
Yes.
Well, that's when you need to have a home inspection done. You need one now. But it's not something that's a once and done thing. You would really recommend that about every 5 years or so, especially, you just have what we call a peace of mind inspection. That's where, you're not really looking to sell. You're just you know, you've been in your home a while, you want to kind of look in nooks and crannies that you don't necessarily want to crawl into, but, you know, you want to make sure there's no moisture issues, there's no leaks, and no electrical issues that you may not be aware of. So, you know, it's good to continually have those inspections, just like you know, when you have maintenance work done on your car.
That's right.
It's you're not necessarily doing what they call an inspection, but that mechanic's still checking your fluids, checking your brake fluids, your antifreeze, and that sort of thing to make sure there's nothing that you're not seeing.
And, you know, it's interesting you say that, John. A good mechanic will say, this is something I think you really need to be fixed right now.
That's right.
But, you know, the timing belt in about 6 months you should look at. Is it
right.
similar to your industry?
Very much so. Very much so. There's certain things, like I said, that might be a deficiency that is a safety issue that you may want to pay specific attention to right now. But some things may, you know, well, your roof looks like it may in the near future, 5, 6 years down the road, may want to look at getting a roofing professional in to determine whether you need a new one or not. But right now you have no leaks, everything's looking fine. So just things like that. You just, you know, preventive stuff as well. So
that's the now part. How about the later part?
Well, that's kind of falls into the same boat. I mean, you just want to go back and check those same things. And especially because what's the average now? I think 7 years, you know, some people keep a house 7 years, maybe a little longer than that now with the economy like it is, but
yeah,
about every 7 years people change homes. So if you're looking at putting it on the market in the next year, we recommend that you get an inspection so you can know ahead of time what the inspector for the home buyer will find, and you can be working on some of those items and fixing them yourself versus having to do it in a hurry when you're looking at the closing date and hiring someone to do it. Some of it may be just odding in things that you can do, some painting, sprucing up, you know, a leaky faucet, something like that you can do over time. So, but later down the road, when you're getting ready to sell, we recommend you do that, and then you'll you know, maybe ward off some of those evils that the home inspector will find when the buyer has to hire him. Because you know, 9 times out of 10, the buyer is going to have a home inspection, either for the mortgage company because they require it, or just because for their peace of mind, they want to make sure they're buying a home that, you know, that is up to par.
Is there any type of a pricing difference if someone were to have a peace of mind type inspection, or if someone is getting ready to buy a home and they need your services, or sell a home and they need your services? In other words, is there any more deeper dive that you do in either?
Well, not really. I mean, you're pretty much wanting to inspect the whole home. Now, I have an example. Just a week or two ago, I had a woman call me, and she had some settling issues, and she had some cracks showing up in her foundation and that sort of thing. And I'm by no means a foundation expert, but she didn't want to call a foundation expert till she could determine maybe what it was, because she wanted to, you know, she wasn't planning on selling. They lived there. They've lived there for 29 years, but they wanted to fix the problem before it got any worse. So all I did was a crawl space inspection. So naturally, I didn't charge her as much because that's all I did. I crawled under the house. I examined it. I found some pier systems that maybe needed to be upgraded a little bit, or there was some settling going on. And, you know, gave them the peace of mind that, you know, that it was not as big an issue as they thought it might have been, but there was some preventive things that they could do. So, yeah, and I do different things. Some people just want a deck. They want their deck inspected to make sure it was built properly, because coming from the municipal building inspector side of things, I see a lot of times where people don't pull permits and don't get things inspected like they ought to. So if someone's moving into a home that's got a huge deck on it and not sure whether a permit was pulled and not sure whether it was inspected, then, you know, they might want a little peace of mind. They're going to have a party next weekend that's going to have 30, 40 people out there on it. And you've seen the pictures, I'm sure, and on the newsreels where
Sure.
the decks just kind of fall off.
Yeah, that's
and
not
you don't
good.
want that to happen.
Not at all. Well, as we mentioned at the beginning, you can tell with John you have a friend in the business who understands both sides as a building inspector and now a home inspector. And please utilize a brand new website, ahainspects.com, ahainspects.com. And John, so this is the first time you've done a podcast,
Yes,
right?
it is.
What do you think so far?
Well, it's pretty much what I expected, but of course, anytime you know that there's the cameras on you, you get a little nervous. You know, you wonder if anybody from America's Most Wanted is out there listening.
No, sir. And he's never been on the top 10 list at the post office either. He's a good,
not under my current name anyway.
No, sir. He's a good man, and yeah, we got a couple cameras in here. The folks at Get Up Productions do a wonderful job, and the backgrounds and the lighting, and there's some information if you all ever like to do some podcasting. They'd be happy to help you and show you how they can help your organization or your company.